for another lesson on Marty's channel. Marty, thank you as always for having me. We're going to talk today about unlocking the best tones in this thing, your Stratocaster. One of my favorite guitars on the planet. I would like to talk today about all of the different things you can do to this instrument to make it sound the best you can make it sound. A lot of sound, I always say, comes from your fingers, but there's so much else you can do to just the guitar itself to kind of set you up for success. You know, most Strats have single coils. They're known for single coil pickups through a Strat. You can also find Strats with so many different kinds of pickups, and you can mod to so many different kinds of pickups. So we can get into pickups another day, but that is just a whole other level and layer on how you can change the tone of your Strat. But I want to talk more about like the exact semantics of the Strat and different things you can do to change whatever instrument you have right now. You know, oftentimes when I first started playing, I had like a really cheap Strat with cheap single coils through like the tiniest transistor solid state amp. And there's so many things you can do with whatever you have to make it sound just that little bit better, you know? The really cool thing about a Strat is most Strats have a bridge that has, you know, the vibrato plate. A lot can change your tone of your Strat depending on what you decide to do with your bridge plate. I like to deck a lot of my bridge plates because it basically, you can do them a number of ways. You can do it just by taking it right down to the body of your guitar. You can do it by wedging a piece of wood in between the bridge plate and your guitar. It tends to thicken the mid-range of your tone and softens the transients of notes. So it kind of gives you more of a natural compressed tone when you flatten this bridge plate. It also improves your sustain. You know, Clapton used to always talk about like flattening this bridge plate, and I do it on most of my Strats. In contrast, if you don't flatten your bridge plate, it's going to make your tone sound a little bit more open and a little bit more trebly and allow harmonics to ring out a bit clearer. So there always is the transverse side of it, but if you can give me something with a little bit more mid-range and more sustain, I'm like, sign me up, especially when I'm playing a Strat. So I always like to deck my bridge plate. Okay, so the other thing about a Strat is, so the hardware around it, you know, there are 3 areas of interest that I usually like to explore. The vibrato block, you know, your bridge plate, your saddles, and depending on what metal your saddles are made out of. And then behind this little plate on the back of your guitar, there are springs. And you can choose to take off a spring. It will all affect your tone significantly. And again, it sort of changes the compression and the mid-range and your sustain of your instrument. And so it's like a constant pendulum that's sort of swinging, and you get to experience with how much you like to kind of let the tone have its own space and let some of those transients come through, how much you want to like compress it and how much tension you want to keep on the strings. So like I said, I prefer to have, you know, this bridge plate decked like right on top of, you know, the top of your guitar. And I prefer to keep all of the springs on, but if you want to experiment, you can definitely take a spring off and you can keep your vibrato plate raised a little bit and see how that changes your tone. So the other thing, we won't get into pickup kinds and pickup types because we could talk for days about that. The pickup height can really change your tone on a Strat. Specifically with single coils, I love how just open and transparent single coils are. They really are microphones for your fingers, is how I like to say them. I mean magnets, but really microphones, because they just pick up the little sounds of your your fingers that they have. Lowering a pickup height, which you can adjust your pickup height by literally taking a screwdriver to these screws and it will adjust your pickup height. It's as easy as that. You can't really, it's pretty foolproof. I mean, if you go so high that your pickup's touching the string, then you're probably a little bit high. You're probably a little bit high. So don't worry, you're not going to hurt your guitar, wreck your guitar, but it's definitely something you can play around with. Lowering your pickups is going to tame the aggression of your pickups. It's going to give you a smoother, sweeter, clearer tone. Going too low is going to really affect your output. It also lowers your output, and that may become an issue. Making your pickups higher is going to give you more aggression, a bolder tone. It will definitely give you a lot more output. I generally like to keep my bridge pickup a little bit higher. Sometimes I love to switch into my bridge pickup for leads, and so having that extra little spot I can flip into and really dig in is something kind of cool. So yeah, raising your pickup height is going to give you a little bit of a warmer, fatter, more aggressive, louder tone. The other thing, of course, to talk about with your tone through a Strat is dependent on your amp. Of course, that's another lesson, but it is part of the tone, discussion, whether you're playing through an AC30 or a deluxe reverb or a Marshall stack, like it's going to vastly affect your tone. I love experimenting with, an AC30 sometimes, having a darker amp with single coils through a Strat, which is generally a brighter guitar to even pick up from the get-go. I love experimenting with those things. Or even if I am playing through a deluxe, I really EQ it a little bit darker. They're always variables you can play with, but because I know what I'm feeding through the amp is a little bit more on like the brighter side, I like to generally EQ my amp to be a little bit darker. Last thing I want to cover before we even get into playing anything is your pickup selector. Your pickup selector on a lot of Strats is a 5-way pickup selector. So when you have the pickup selector, closest all the way to the left, it is going to be focusing on the neck pickup, this one. Position 2 will be your neck and your middle pickup. Position 3 in the middle will be your middle pickup. I know, it's rocket science. Position 4 will be your middle and your bridge pickup. And then position 5 will be your bridge pickup solely. Knowing that you can have all of these options as well as volume and tone knobs, the combinations are endless, truly, of the different kind of tones you can get. I love sitting in my neck pickup. I generally play a lot in my neck pickup. It's probably because I listened to a lot of Clapton growing up, and Clapton uses a lot of his neck pickup. He also solos a lot with his middle pickup. I mean, the difference is, as just a huge generalization, is your neck pickup's gonna be warmer, thicker, darker, specifically on a Strat, talking about single coils. And then your bridge pickup all the way in number 5 is going to be brighter, sharper, more piercing. I usually like my bridge pickup for solos and lead lines. And when I'm, playing in the middle of a song and I'm being able to throw on some drive and get and listen to that bridge pickup, like it gives that cuts through a mix when you're playing with a band that your neck pickup doesn't necessarily have. So it just gives you that extra little bit of treble. Now, that being said, with your tone knobs, you can really experiment to another level, because for instance, one of my favorite positions is to be in position 1 on your pickup selector, so you're dealing with your neck pickup, and then play around with your first tone knob here. So this is with the tone knob all the way up on 10. So it's pretty present, it's pretty bright. Now we're gonna roll the tone knob back to about, let's say 6. it's a little bit more muffled, which depending on what you're playing, depending on what genre, where you are at in your song, maybe that's not great, but maybe it's the perfect thing. If you have, a setup that it's like, oh my gosh, my tone is sounding so tinny, playing around with your pickup selector and your tone knobs is gonna be your best friend. Whenever my tone is a little bit too tinny, I immediately roll back on my tone knobs, or I choose a different pickup. The further you go, like if you're in 1 or 2 or 3, it's going to be a little bit more warmer than 3 or 4 or 5. Generally, depending on how you have your tone knob set, and of course what pedals. I mean, obviously your pedals are going to affect your tone too, but that's just a basic overlook on how to get the best tones out of this thing called a Stratocaster, my favorite guitar on the planet. It is so clear, and it's just such a transient instrument to play that really, really picks up on your fingers. And so doing things to this guitar to make sure we can hear just the magic in your fingers is really, really cool. I'm Lindsay L. Thank you for listening to this video on how to get the best tones out of your Strat. Make sure to subscribe and follow to Marty Music, as well as my own channel, as well as if you want to learn guitar with me at a deeper level. I wrote my first guitar course ever, and I would love it if you checked it out. So the links are below. We'll see you guys next time.